Welcome to the Generative Edge. It's Don, together with my co-host Vyas.
Howdy, everyone.
Good to have you here again. And so excited to have Jan Michalski with us today. Hey, Jan.
Hello.
Jan leads our Generative AI internal initiative in Central Europe and plays a pivotal role as one of 5 regions as our global Deloitte go-to-market initiative with Generative AI. Jan, it is so incredibly exciting to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Woohoo!
It is a pleasure. Thank you guys for the invitation.
And Jan, so thrilled to have you here because I think your insights of what you go in terms of journey within Deloitte is something which we all would like to hear. So welcome.
Jan has an extensive experience, which he'll tell us about in a moment, which is really exciting. But I'm particularly interested, Jan, in drawing back the curtain a little bit as to what it's looked like for us internally, embracing this generative AI journey. But also, in particular, I'm also interested in what our clients say to some degree, what you're picking up in the market. You're involved with some global surveys. You're seeing a lot. You're experiencing a lot across the globe. Where did it start for you? How did you get going? Why did you even put your hand up for this journey? Can you just talk us through what that looked like?
I wish I could say I put my hands up, but that was more appointment and ask. And I didn't say no. At the beginning, I was very skeptical. It was a year ago in October 2023 when I was asked by our CEO to step up and basically dedicate all my time to drive this initiative. What is important to understand in Deloitte, the appointments for GenAI was across all the countries and all the geographies in the world, also globally. It was appointment by the CEOs, and we all report to the CEOs as this is one of the crucial and critical initiatives that we have. Yeah. I don't remember any of that type of initiatives ever to report to CEOs. So I think that helped a lot also in the whole transition from the beginning. That from the beginning it was treated as a critical strategic initiative.
And you had that top-down sponsorship from the beginning.
So that helped from the get-go. Although I have to say, as a European, I was very skeptical in the beginning. I thought, well, another blockchain, it's a hype. Everybody talks about it.
All the buzzwords.
The buzzwords. And what will it really change anything? And I've been in with technology working for the last over 20 years with clients and seen many come and go. So my the first approach was a bit of is it real or is it just another blockchain, RPA, and
another hype cycle,
another
big
hype
data?
Cycle. Absolutely. And then I looked into the first thing I did was look into what was already prepared, because this initiative globally was already started a bit earlier than I think we globally started in May 2023. Of the impact assessment, so how this will really impact our business of Deloitte. And when I looked into what was prepared, and it started to get real for me. We did the same impact assessment also for us in Central Europe on how it will impact all our businesses, how it will transform, what we'll need to do, and what expectations we have in terms of how it will impact our daily life, daily activities. So we went down to even activity level to understand how every of our business units will be impacted with this technology potentially. And at the time it was early days, so
sure.
We this impact assessment was probably a bit premature at the time. You couldn't understand yet, but already we've seen that if we do nothing, that has potential to really impact us.
I see. So you were initially skeptical, which is very interesting to hear since you were appointed into this role. But slowly, as you started to unpack it, you saw the transformational impact, positive impact it could have on the organization.
And negative one.
And a negative one. Interesting. We'll come back to that in a moment. But where do you even begin? I mean, a lot of us are on this journey to get this, exactly why we have this podcast. Everyone's on this journey, on this trajectory. Where do you even then begin to start to narrow down what really brings value to the organization? Can you talk us through where you started? How did you approach it? You've got some initiatives on the go now. How did you get to those?
That's a lot of questions in one, I have to say. How do I answer that? But I think I had it a bit easier because I was already part of the global initiative. And it's one of those initiatives that globally we work very closely together. So I'm part of this 5-people team that is working across the globe on helping our clients to transform as well. So that gives me a lot of visibility what others are doing. So being part of Deloitte, that helps a lot. So we're not alone in this. We're all exchanging ideas and seeing what is happening. So the way we structured this globally, we had like two major streams. One is all about like how do we help our clients to transform, and the other is how do we transform how we deliver our services as part of all the engagements that we deliver to use this technology to our benefit. One we call market activation, the other we call service delivery transformation. And with our CEO, I was also asked by the CEO, Jarek at the time, to look into how can we transform our enabling services, our internal services of Deloitte Central Europe to the benefit using this technology. And that's, I think, the question that you are asking, how we did that internally, because I think that's something we started with. I think it's fair to say that you need experience to be able to talk to clients how to do that. So we really, that was something I started with, right? We really went down and looked into, okay, how can we really change how we work? And we started, 2023 was like a year of enthusiasm. Every single person in every organization wanted to build a chatbot. And at some point we banned the chatbot word because everybody wanted to build a chatbot, which was questionable.
People are lonely, they need to talk to something.
I want my own personal ChatGPT that will help me to work. And so this enthusiasm, we need to channel it. Because we couldn't complete every single idea that everybody had. So I was asked, okay, what are the big ideas that we should focus on that will deliver the value that we need to prove to our partners that this technology is transformational. So we started with over 160 ideas. Bottom up.
Wow.
And not short on ideas in this film.
Correct. And we started to narrow it down, combine some of them, reject some of them. And we ended up with 15 that we build business cases for, that we presented to our executive committee of Central Europe. And out of those, we selected 5 that we want to start with.
Okay.
And we are now implementing already for the last 6 months. We built the proof of values already. Now we are going into unlocking the value within the process that we selected.
And I like that you've used the word proof of value, because you've mentioned that several times quite intentionally. Can you just 10 seconds on proof of value, and why not proof of concept?
The proof of value focuses on the value, not the concept. That's the difference.
The concept being proven to some degree?
Concept being the proof of concept you kind of throw away after you basically prove it, right? We didn't have a problem with finding the concept use cases. We had a problem to understand if this technology can realize the value and deliver the benefit we want. And we focused in those projects that we selected for us. We focused on the unlocking the value and delivering the actual benefit to the organization. Something we call the vertical use case of AI or GenAI. And there is also a horizontal one. We'll probably chat a bit about it in a second. So in those use cases, we focus actually on delivering value, not delivering the scope, not the use case itself, not checking if it's gonna work, but actually can we transform this process that we selected with this technology to deliver value to organization. So it's really underpinning the business case. It's not proving the technology, it's proving the business case. That's why we call it proof of value. And I think especially in GenAI, which is a technology that is still very, very new, still in disruption vortex moment, where things are happening very fast, models are changing every week, and new things are being released every month from every technology provider. It really requires this sort of proof that it will work for us.
Yeah. I love it. I love the intentionality behind the language that we use in these cases. I think that's very, very important. And we've spoken about it at length as well on some of the earlier podcasts.
I think, Jan, you perhaps bring one of the most unique perspectives in this whole journey, because you wear 2 hats, right? So one, consulting your customers as well and taking them through the journey. And outside in, Don, I can tell this, not you perhaps, because I'm AWS. I see Deloitte as an audit company. If there was one company which would actually take a long time to get into this journey, in my mind, was an audit company because of legal and all the compliance things. Firstly, how did you address that? I mean, that's something which everyone would love to learn from you, Jan.
Walk in the park, I'm sure.
It's a surprising thing, because I would say that So to my surprise, our auditors or tax or legal are they are so, they're very innovative. That's something I didn't expect. I didn't work much with our legal tax and assurance and audit departments before. But they're also hungry for new solutions that will make their work easier and something that can really make it more cool, I guess. And GenAI is a chance for them. There is a lot of manual work and repetitive work that can really unlock the value in those processes and let them focus on what delivers value for our clients. So there's a lot of ideas and a lot of solutions that they already built as well to help them in this work. And they were one of the first movers, actually. Our assurance business, our auditors, were the first ones to have a solution live in production. So I would say, to my surprise, they really long for that type of technology to help them. It's also because the complexity of environment, regulations, is really stressing our tax, legal, and assurance and audit departments. And with this technology, it can help them to deliver much higher quality as well.
And a follow-up to that, from a compliance perspective, when we talk about compliance, I think this is something that generally circles around the topic of generative AI. And I've spoken to a number of clients myself where they're trying to go ahead, but they seem to run into some blockers, if I can put that in inverted commas, air quotes. How did you navigate that in an environment where we are generally a risk-averse type of organization? How did you overcome some of those challenges?
Yeah, I just want to...
If they were challenges.
Yeah, I just want to quote your own report on the GenAI adoption in enterprises. It says about 39% of enterprises are challenged because of legal and compliance needs, right? So you've actually gone through that journey. I think this is something which everyone would love to understand.
It will not be true if I said we went through this journey. We're still going on through this journey every day. Because with every new model, with every new platform, with every new application we release, we have internal clearinghouse that needs to accept it. And it goes through the same process every time. And I don't think we are different to any other enterprises. I talk to clients every day and they have the same struggle. So we all have our legal environment, our regulatory aspects. We have our compliance, data security, we have our data policy, and now also in Europe we have the AI Act. So plenty of things to be addressed, and it takes time. Sure. So, I laugh. It's true that it takes 6 weeks to build some of those solutions and 6 months to approve.
I love that. You brought that in a dinner yesterday. It was fantastic, right? So 6 months to build something, 6 weeks to build something, and 6 months to actually approve.
And in Europe, we are very careful for AI, right? It's a lot of doubts, a lot of skepticism, a lot of worries, because it's called artificial intelligence, that it will take over. And it's good, I think. Although I never was a big fan of regulations, I think regulating AI is not bad. I think we should be intentional and put guide rails to make sure that we know what it does and how it does it. I think in a way it allows us to better control the outcomes as well and make it a tool for making humanity better, and rather than a tool for us to make harm to ourselves. So, and it, as any tool, and it is a powerful one, it can be used in both, like with a knife, right? It can be used for good and for bad, and the same is with AI. And that's why I think guide rails are important. Of course, in enterprise context, it makes things last longer. So I would not say we overcome that, but we find a way to deal with it. So we put the new governance for it. We ensure that we meet our global standards around that and our internal ones. And, honestly, it was pushing through some of those things every day. I had daily calls with some of the teams to make sure that we go through. And instead of months, it took us weeks in some aspects. But building understanding of what we're trying to achieve and why we are doing that across all those teams in the beginning was crucial. So we had building this sort of understanding what generative AI is, what it is not, what it does, what it doesn't do. And common understanding across all the people who are part of this approval process is important.
So if I need to summarize, it's just for the viewers, right? So first thing you need to do is a top-down commitment. Get the right people within your organization, right from legal, compliance, get them together, face this front on, right? So this is an issue which everyone needs to come together and resolve, and then work through initiatives to make sure that those issues are addressed. I think that's the journey which you're taking through right now.
Correct. And
sounds
I
like
think
it
requires also additional governance, definition, roles, and once you get into more models, it requires also monitoring, ensuring security and cybersecurity of them, and also it requires some, quite often, especially if you are touching employees, and it requires some ethical guide rails and ethical understanding as well, which we all of those subjects, from legal to ethical, we call trustworthy AI, and within this framework of trustworthy AI, there are many aspects that needs to be addressed. But you nicely summarized that.
It sounds like education has a massive role to play in this as well, right?
Education and upskilling.
Yeah.
You were saying I have an extensive experience of 1 year and few months in GenAI, and it is extensive because I have been doing this pretty much every day, full time. However, it is still, if you think how long this technology exists and how quickly it changes, we all are in the learning process, and you will not find a prompt engineer with 6 years experience that some clients ask for, right? They don't exist. And honestly, there are so few people with experience with GenAI in the market now that the best strategy for all our clients is really to upskill the people, because in future, if I truly believe these tools of that will be powered by large language models, we call them generative AI, are the tools that we will all use across all our aspects of our businesses in the future. So, helping our talent to upskill and understand, I think is our responsibility.
Sure.
And to do that is this horizontal application of AI.
I wanted to circle back to that because
that's the $1 million question.
You mentioned vertical application of generative AI services in the organization, but then of course that has a horizontal axis as well. Can you just talk us through the language around horizontal and vertical application?
Correct. So the horizontal, kind of to simplify it, there are tools that we or use cases, or let's call it application of generative AI, where we focus on generating value for the enterprise, which I call the vertical axis of getting deep down into the processes, embedding generative AI to create value. And there is the horizontal, which is more addressing all our employees and giving them tools. And I think there are a few reasons why I think it's required to do. One is to educate them and give them the tools that they can apply to work. But the second one is also very important, which is the kind of the risking the fact that they will be using the publicly available tools with the company data.
So you can't ring fence them so you're enabling them and de-risking.
Absolutely. And it helps to de-risk the fact that some of our data can become a public knowledge, right? So it has two aspects. That's how I play the fact that we should accelerate the process as well, right? So, because it is a risk to deploy, but it's the risking factor as well.
So the value prop there is a little bit different, I assume, from the vertical.
It's education, and it's also giving the kind of making it familiar. The better our talent understands how to use it, the less risk it creates, but also more value it creates, right?
So how did you build that fluency? Because it's not easy for your entire workforce to actually try and get a view of that, right? So building solution is one part of it. How do you get it to adopt? I mean, would you have some...
Again, a process ongoing, right? We just finished another wave of our fluency campaign. I just had a meeting just before this one to summarize this. And today we have around 13,000 people in Deloitte Central Europe. And today already, daily, we have 10,000 prompts in our MyBody solution. So it's and this is a result also of the latest fluency campaigns that we had. And during the fluency campaign, we focus on educating people on how to write good prompts, how we use them across different business units, what are the typical prompts that you can use that can really add value to your work. We underline also the risks of hallucinating, the risk of how you can or cannot use the confidential data. Also the responsibility is with us, not with the tool. So we all are encouraged to check the outcomes and make sure that whatever we create is read and quality checked. So there is a lot of education as part of the fluency, but also reminding people that they can use those tools and showing the consultants, senior consultants that are using this every day. So they talk about the value and that it creates for their daily work, not me. which would be probably less understandable for the people.
And that's a great way, right? So dogfooding your own tools is the best way to actually start opening up, and then giving that access is the first and primary way of actually having enterprises adopt GenAI. So very well put, and congratulations on that journey.
I manage a sizable team here, and I almost every week my employees are asking for approvals to use generative AI tools that have been approved, obviously through Jan and his workings, which is great to see people are embracing them, wanting to use them, wanting to be more efficient. So I think really that education around enabling people has been critical to our business, and we've already seen some increased efficiency within the team. So I love it. I just love this horizontal and vertical application. But I want to drill down into the vertical application a little bit, because I think this is really where the listeners, and especially if we're targeting leadership as an audience here, you coined a phrase, I think, when we spoke earlier about embedding generative AI deep into business process. And that is how you sort of described the vertical application of generative AI. You spoke about starting with 160 initiatives, coming down to 5. Can you talk about your approach at a vertical level for those 5? How did you go and select those 5 and know that you could add value? Can you just talk us through?
Sure.
I think you thought about that.
We're talking about like last year that it was like this. Everybody was enthusiastic and there was so many ideas, and we needed to channel them. That's why we went bottom up. It's quite often now when I work with clients, we go top down, where we look into the value chain of the most important business processes within the particular sector or particular client, and how can we unlock the value that is there. We have now, globally realized over 1,000 projects, so we have a lot of benchmarks and understanding where application of generative AI can bring the business value. So now if I had to do this again, or we'll be selecting the new initiatives, we'll go top down, because we have much better understanding of on which part of the processes we can generate, unlock value with this technology. So now if I had to do this again, it would definitely be much faster, because
it's a great lesson learned, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But it was necessary, I think. Otherwise, stopping this type of enthusiasm results in people going around you and building it in some sort of shadow IT, which is a risk organization, which I would never do. If any of my clients are in this situation when everybody wants to do it, I mean, we need to let them to basically give them a chance to. They have, there are some great ideas that we would not come up with.
Sure.
So internally, for us, we think about a middle out, where you let a bit of bottom up as well, and then top down, and then they convert somewhere. Because to your point, otherwise you'll have a lot of shadow ITs, and then trying to do a lot of things, which becomes very difficult for you to curtail, right? So I think it's a great learning which you have had as Deloitte.
So taking this top down approach, which is the stage of the journey we're now in, you've never mentioned a use case in isolation. You're talking about business process and embedding the thinking of, that generative AI has provoked into the business process. So when you're thinking about employing generative AI into the business, we hear so many people asking for, give us a use case. Give us a use case. How would you challenge that, knowing what you now know?
I think, yes, a lot of, especially when clients are on this beginning of the journey, we call discovery stage, when they have not yet deployed any solutions, there is a lot of questions about use cases, because it's kind of, we want to understand what this technology does. That's what we're searching for. But when we start talking to clients, quite often we end up in a very different discussion. Even an example from today, one of the pharmaceutical companies, and we're talking about the finance processes and invoice posting and the whole process of invoicing. And after that, I think that was the third meeting we had, and going more deeply into the process, and the client understood like how we want to apply that. We showed also the how it works, also kind of proof of concept demo on how it can take this process and automate. They asked us actually today about we understand. Can you re-engineer the whole process first before we start automating it? And this is the right approach, right? Yeah. So this is how we should think about it. This technology is an enabler to do things differently. And I have to tell you that I'm with the technology over 20 years, shows my age, I guess. Started, with floppy disks. Now we're in the cloud. A lot has changed, right? But one thing has not changed, right? To unlock the value in technology is not applying applying technology to the old process. You need to understand how this new technology can do it before you apply it. Otherwise, you end up with new technology and old process, which is you have a new technology on legacy process, which is a legacy in itself already, right? It has been like this forever. And the same is with GenAI. I mean, it is an enabler that allows you to do the processes in a very different way.
Sure. Yeah.
And to be able to do it, you need to think a bit differently about it, how it will work. In some processes, we go in our application of generative AI to our risk process in Deloitte. We're under regulations. We have also quite extensive risk processes. We are applying it to one of the parts of our KYB process, or know your client or know your business process. And then we're going from a process that is led by a human, a manual process, to a process that will be led by generative AI, where a human will be asked to interact when the generative AI engine will not be able to find the data. That is a very big change, right? It was a process. It is today a highly manual process where it's led totally by human. Every step is the human decision. And it will go to a process that we totally automated, not only by GenAI, but also some other automations, and only will request human help where it will not be able to build we're talking about structure building of structure, like legal structure of businesses, and wherever it will not be able to find the data, or it will not be accurate enough, it will ask for help and verification.
And of course, in that equation, if you talk about the entire process end to end, generative AI is a portion of what needs to happen in re-engineering that process, right?
As an example, I think for our internal one, I can share, the engine of generative AI within the application that we are currently working on, it's just 10% of the effort that is required. However, it's critical, because if we don't have it, the whole application doesn't have any sense, right? So it's an important enabler. You cannot do it without, but it's not the biggest effort that we have. All the other technology that we're using to make it happen, also data transformation that is required, and integrations is most of the effort. The heart of it is the generative AI that will be used. But the effort-wise, it's just 10% of the overall effort required.
I think this is where Deloitte, your consulting background, makes a huge difference here, because the entire process transformation is something which is deep ingrained within yourself. And using that and then leveraging this technology to optimize that is what actually makes you all so different, right? So, and I know you were talking about another segmentation of how you think about this, right? So if I recollect right, in a dinner yesterday, you're talking about experience, talking about process efficiencies, and then capability. And you think about any process transformation across 3 buckets. I think that's a fascinating concept. Can you just elaborate that with an example? I would love our viewers to actually hear that.
So when we think about like where value lies with generative AI, sometimes we divide it in those 3 buckets. You're right. It's one of the ways to think about it. And I understand you want probably some examples. So I think based on our study that you referred to before, Don, which is the Q3 enterprise,
the state of generative AI in enterprise. Q3, it's released every quarter. We will post it with this podcast,
and it's great because it's like over 2,000 executives from our clients are being asked about generative AI, and they share. We know that still most of the enterprises are focusing on efficiency, which is the big bucket where we're looking to unlock the efficiency. A good example is the one I shared from our risk process, where we will be increasing the efficiency of the process, and that's one, an obvious one that I think, especially now with the economic climate, many of my clients are asking and asking to focus on. But there are 2 others. Experience is like when by applying generative AI can change or transform experience. A good example is the one we talked about where we use generative AI in the hospital to call back patients after they visit to hospital to remind about taking meds, but also doing the kind of a survey with them, how they feel, like is everything all right, to prevent them coming back to the hospital. And this process was before supported by humans, but with generative AI we can do this more often, not only once after release. And what what was a surprise to us is that the feedback we get from patients is better than when the human contacts them.
So they want to speak to the machine.
Yeah.
Basically.
True.
Well, they do.
I think it's.
They wouldn't
I don't
know
know
the
why.
difference.
we don't know why yet, but that was a surprise. I think it's also because generative AI, when calls like the bot that is, not the bot, but the generative AI agent that is calling patients, it doesn't have a problem with call handling time. Doesn't have to hit the marks and can talk to them longer. And actually, it is the other stat. They talk longer to the generative AI agent than the person. And the feedback we get is better. So that was a surprise because, of course, when implement this type of deflection mechanism in call centers, usually you're worried about NPS going down, and here it's increased. So that was a bit of a surprise. But it's a good example of how you serve a different experience and how it enables it.
Because you could never really have done that before at scale,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
In a cost-effective manner.
So I think in the interest of actually taking this further, right? So you had a wonderful journey till now, and I think it's a long journey. Where do you go from here, right? So I think you're in a part where you're somewhere middle of adopting. So with your learnings, what's next for Deloitte?
I think we want to scale, right? We see the value, and we're already thinking about the different use cases that we'll be able to implement and transform other processes within our organization, both to boost efficiency, but also eliminate the drudge from the work, which is like I think it's harder and harder to find people that want to do repetitive tasks to a quality that is required. I call them human robots, right? They have a lot of prescriptive processes where humans really have very little chance to deviate from. It's not the best of the jobs. Usually they come with a lot of also rotation associated with that. And this type of work is something we definitely want to focus, because it's also where the efficiency lies, but also thinking how we can also transform the experience and go beyond. Definitely will be focusing more also on the next fluency waves that we want to do in terms of upgrading the our staff to better use the tool, like MyBuddy, that is our main tool. But we have plenty of other applications. We have our solutions that, for example, our tax team built for document processing and a few others as well, which we want to our people to better understand, upskill, and use them in daily work. So this is also the area, and of course we see a huge interest from clients to do the same. I think we see more and more clients want to get on this journey, and more getting into much better understanding of what they can achieve. Out of our again, the report comes that out of the clients who invested already in GenAI, 75% or 74% are reporting that they want to increase their investments because they see already the benefit. So that is absolutely one of those technology wave that we see in the interest of our clients growing. So that will also continue, I'm sure.
I know, Jan. I mean, this was such a wonderful thought process from you. I think my summary is simple, right? So first and foremost, get started. I think that's what I learned from you. Don't wait too much. Sometimes it could be horizontal solutions or vertical solution. Doesn't matter. Get started. Try and get a top-down alignment because that is going to help you drive this quicker. Third one is think about value creation. I think if you don't think about value creation, this is something which will not be successful. So that's what I learned from you. And thanks for driving that within Deloitte as well. Fourth one is now using this, how do you scale it further, right? It's constant feedback, learn from it. And last but not the least, train everyone. I mean, like we say, fluency. GenAI fluency is important. Unless people start using it and leveraging it, adoption is difficult. So start that fluency. So if you're in that journey, start that fluency today. And you have all the help from AWS as well as Deloitte. And that's the first place for you to get started. So with that, thank you so much, Jan. We learned a lot today.
I applaud you, Jan. I really do. I can't imagine I imagine working with 13,000 people in the organization, all wanting to jump out of the gate using generative AI. It must be like herding cats in this organization. You've managed to streamline it, build a strategy, one that's clearly effective. And I'm really excited, and I applaud your leadership in this area, really.
We should probably start having Generative Edge heroes, and Jan would be one of the first honorary members. So
I think there's a huge team behind me. I'm merely just the tip of the iceberg, let's say, but there's plenty of people that are working to make it happen. And thank you, including you with this podcast. So
Sure.
thanks a lot also for inviting me.
Great.
Fantastic.
And with that, we conclude today's episode on the Generative Edge. Jan, it's been fantastic to have you with us. Vyas, a pleasure as always.
As always, my friend.
And remember, generate responsibly.